So when we started this conversation, I said there's been an evolution with product marketing. We are now sitting at the table and are helping drive revenue in organizations. There's always got to be the why are we doing this? It's about serving the needs and wants of customers. If you can identify the needs and wants of customers in a market, you're one step ahead. And then I think the other opportunity is to actually quantify it. How much is that opportunity worth? Then you combine the needs and the wants that you gather through insights, customer surveys, or any other type of research, and you brief your product colleagues. They also need to know, why are we doing this? The why. There's a customer who needs X, and this is a service that we can provide them with, and they go off and they build the service or the product to fulfill that need of the customer.
Hey everyone, I hope you're doing well. Welcome to the latest episode of Scale, a podcast for product marketing managers who are building, positioning, and scaling tech products in Africa. I'm your host, Carolyne Mwerbi, and I'm a senior product marketing manager currently based in Nairobi, Kenya. Today, I am so delighted to be joined by our guest, Sibongani Malumo, who's a product marketing manager at Sage, South Africa. She's a seasoned marketing professional with more than 12 years of experience in product marketing, managing customer value propositions and segmentation, including stakeholder management and sales. She has a master's in strategic marketing management from Wits Business School and has spent most of her career in the IT industry in South Africa. Welcome, Sibongani.
Thanks for having me over. I'm really excited to just share thoughts around us being PMMs and what we can do better. Little bit of background. Product marketing has been my thing. I feel that the IT industry chose me. I didn't really choose it. But also just very diverse sort of resume. I've tried sales. I recommend that any marketer should try sales. It's a really good experience to understand what we deliver and how it lands with the customers. But yeah, right now based in Johannesburg, work for a software company. And yes, I've been in this role for 3 years, and I look after a product set of accounting software. So that's been really challenging and exciting, especially on our continent, just because of the way there's internet connection issues and just understanding how technology gets consumed by Africans. But yeah, that's just a little bit about who I am. Over to you.
Thank you so much. So we'll start with a fun fact about yourself. So just tell us more about fun things you do, what you enjoy doing, so that your audience, the audience can get to know you a bit better before we jump into the, main meat of the discussion.
Sure. So I love dancing. So I am an absolute fan of music from all over the world, in continents like Europe to Amapiano to Afrobeat. Love dancing. I am a gym girly, so when I'm not being a product marketer, I do box fit, which is high intensity training with boxing techniques, quite intense on the body, but really great for your mental space. And then when I do have time and I'm in the right space, I dabble in writing poetry. Hasn't been a while since I've been able to write, but I also enjoy reading it. So yeah, that's just a little bit about who I am.
Oh, nice. So when it comes to working out, what's your best exercise? I'll give you mine, because I do work out like twice or thrice a week. So mine would be the Bulgarian split squats. But then I hate the walking lunges. I feel like we don't need those. We don't need those ones.
Love the squats. I actually hate Bulgarian splits, to be honest. Yes, I find them very painful, but unfortunately, they are very effective. So we have to do them. And then I think my absolute worst is burpees. It's just so hard. And it takes a lot to actually get the movement right. So these are things we don't like, but we do them because they're good for our bodies and make us feel better in the long run.
I totally agree. So we'll jump into just knowing more about you and your journey into product marketing, because the PMM role is not that well known in Africa. It's just getting known here in Africa. And we have a lot of guys who don't understand the practice. So I decided to start this podcast so that we can help other guys who are getting into the industry to know more about what we do, right? So maybe you can tell us a little bit about your journey into product marketing.
Okay. So sure, I would definitely like to dive into that. First and foremost, I believe, as you said, product marketing is kind of a new thing on our continent, and the role being called that, I think what we were originally known as people in the marketing department who work closely with dev teams. And now we've got a space finally within this big discipline of marketing. And I think the role has really, really evolved over the years, from just managing above the line, through the line, and below the line marketing to actually being a strategic partner in an organization. Now, when we talk about my journey and how I got into product marketing, it really was getting into a marketing graduate program, studied communications and marketing, and then I've got into a graduate program. And in that graduate program, I was placed in product marketing. And it was within the marketing function, but was very specific because it was about understanding a niche set of customers, understanding competitors for those products, being able to craft a value proposition for those products, and then hand it over to what we call now performance marketing. And they would take it either above the line, through the line, or below the line. So I've seen the role really evolve over the years. I think one thing that has been the best, or should I say the most recent evolution, is being accountable for revenue. So product marketing is no longer just a marketing function. We are now being held accountable for driving activities that deliver revenue. And I think that's the big difference between performance marketing and product marketing. Our performance marketing colleagues take what we as product marketers segment as a market, craft as a value proposition, develop with our product developers a service or a product, and then our performance marketing colleagues literally take that through and put it in the hands or the eyes of the consumer. So product marketing is no longer just a part of marketing, but rather a strategic arm of an organization to drive revenue. So I think that's the biggest evolution. And I mean, my journey started out at Microsoft, looking after ERP products. And like I said, then it was about making sure we've got the right messaging and the right product for customers. But now my role entails being able to deliver initiatives and activities that deliver revenue.
Yeah, it's nice. I love the breakdown you've given, and you actually just mentioning that you're a strategic part of the organization. You sort of partnering with other departments to ensure that you are impacting revenue, right? So I think the main question I'll start by asking you is, what's the role of product marketing in demand generation? I know we'll talk about lead generation at the end, but what's the role of product marketing in demand generation? And maybe you could take us through like a process you've gone through before and your experience.
So, I mean, demand generation, I see that as literally the last piece of the puzzle. I say that because for you to create demand, you've got to know who you're targeting. So first and foremost, understanding who your customer base is or your target audience, making sure that you understand the wants and the needs of those customers. And then from that, being able to look at the competitors in that space. I don't know if there are any industries or any sort of products and professional services that don't have competitors today. So it's also about understanding your competitor landscape. Then once you've got a targeted audience who you can serve with a product or service, it's all about crafting what value you can bring to that customer. So that's in PMM speak, we call it the value proposition. But what that really is what are we bringing to the customer that they will consider as value? Not us or the organization, what the customer would consider. Yeah, what the customer would consider as value. So for me, I think that is where the magic happens, is that if you've missed targeting the right customer, you haven't actually looked at how big that opportunity is, who you'd be competing against, and then being able to craft something that can serve the needs of a customer. I think that's where you lose it. So demand gen starts with knowing the customer, outlining their wants and needs, making sure that you have a proposition that they can consume and see value in. And then I believe we hand over to our performance marketing colleagues who then take those elements to attract a new type of customer and create that demand for that product or that service.
Nice. I love that, Sibongani. I love the breakdown. And I know most product marketers tend to, like the untrained product marketers, just tend to come into a company and don't take the time to understand the core market the product is serving, the key different customer segments the product is going to serve. Or the solutions that are going to be taken into market, and even just thinking through the messaging. How do you talk to these specific customer segments, right? And so the other thing I'm going to maybe ask you to expound so that product marketers can know is what are the top 3 things our product marketers need to take into consideration when they take products to market. When they're handling their go-to-market stuff, when you're engaging with maybe the product management department, what are the 3 things you'd want them to focus on?
So when we started this conversation, I said there's been an evolution with product marketing. So we are now sitting at the table and are helping drive revenue in organizations. So there's always got to be the why are we doing this? The why are we doing this? Yes, of course, it's to make money. That's what organizations do. But it's about serving the needs and wants of customers. If you can identify the needs and wants of customers in a market, you're one step ahead. And then I think the other opportunity is to actually quantify it. How much is that opportunity worth? If we go after this type of customer, how much revenue can we actually bring in? Then you combine the needs and the wants that you gather through insights, customer surveys, or any other type of research, and you brief your product colleagues. We don't want our product colleagues to build something that can't be consumed, right? So they also need to know, why are we doing this? The why. There's a customer who needs X, and this is a service that we can provide them with. And they go off and they build the service or the product to fulfill that need of the customer. So the first thing is always to look at that opportunity sizing, understand what the customer needs are, and then being able to translate that into actionable insights for the product teams to go off and build the service or product. And then over and above that, because that's the first step, the second thing is being able to collaborate with different departments in an organization. Product marketing is really the glue that holds everything together. We sit slap bang in the middle of an organization. We interact with commercial or finance, if you want to call them that, pricing committees, customer support, and also customer experience. And we need to bring all those different functions together with the same insights that we begin with, sharing what we know about the customer, sharing what we know about what the customer needs in our market, and taking everyone on that journey so that by the time we're actually in a go-to-market meeting where we are giving out tasks and asking for accountability in terms of certain job functions, we know that we're all on the same page and we're chasing the same thing, which is obviously acquiring the customer and making sure the customer derives value from our product and service.
Totally agree. Totally agree. I love the way it's started by, us anticipating the need that's in the market, then opportunity sizing, all the way to engage with different departments to now communicate the brand externally. So I would love this to talk about different launches. I've gone through your profile, amazing profile. So it's very commendable what you're doing in the industry. So maybe you could take us through the way you handle product launches. I know, as you know, we do have tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. And the way you handle them, you have to undertake different sets of activities to successfully launch those products in those 3 tiers. So maybe you can take us through your experience and how you engage with different departments when you're launching these 3 tiers of products into the market.
Yeah, so I think without speaking too many acronyms, and this platform is about sharing ideas and trying to understand this function, I think tier 1, 2, and 3 sort of listing differs from organization to organization. I will share what I sort of know around that listing. So product marketers don't only launch products. Sometimes we sunset products and launch new products or replacement products. So I would consider a tier 1 a brand new product or service that you're taking to market, that your organization has never had. Tier 2, I believe, would be an evolution of a product that your organization actually has, but maybe it's a better version, maybe it's a desktop to cloud native version. And then I would say tier 3, not saying that it's not important, but that's where I would say that's where you're sunsetting products, where a product has come at the end of the management life cycle, and you are sunsetting it because you're thinking of bringing something new to the market, or there isn't a need for your product anymore in the market, so you have to end of life it. Now, I'll start with the big one, which is the exciting one, where we get our creative juices flowing and we are building something brand spanking new that's going to shake up the industry. That process, as I said, always starts, and any one of these processes, any one of these tier launches, any one of these tier go-to-markets, the customer has to be at the center of it. So tier 1, we know a customer, we know that there is a gap in the market, we want to fulfill that gap. We do some research, we segment the market, we decide we're going to go over a market, we quantify the opportunity that we're going after so that from a commercial perspective, it makes sense. We then take those customer insights and we brief our product management colleagues to go off and build this product or service to serve that customer need. And then once we are satisfied with where the product development is and we're starting to test the product, we start bringing together the go-to-market. And like I said, initially, go-to-market is not just us as product marketers launching a product and handing it over to performance marketing. It's really about taking the organization on a journey on why we embark on launching that product, who it's going to serve, and how we're going to actually take it to market. So you would interact with finance because they would be doing the commercial mapping. You would interact with your pricing teams. Some of them sit in finance as well, where you're saying, this is what the pricing is in the market at the moment. This is where we are going to price our product. You interact with customer support, where there's a product or service, customers need to be supported. So interacting with customer support and making sure that we have the right channels for customers to get help to use our products or our services. And then over and above that is measuring how happy our customers are with the product or service. So our customer experience colleagues then come in, they bring in those measures. We find different ways of measuring how satisfied a customer is with the product or the service. Some of you know about the Net Promoter Score, applying that, making sure that we have a way that we can check that our customers are happy with the product or the service, and that we're actually delivering the value that we said we would when we embarked on creating that product. So that would be like, in a nutshell, a tier 1 launch where you're building it from scratch and then taking various departments in the organization on this journey. And then finally, our marketing colleagues in performance marketing who would actually now put stuff on social media, engage with the media agencies and events. So it's really about taking people on that journey. A lot like change management, actually. And then if I just go into a sort of tier 3 kind of go-to-market, it's the least exciting, I think, which would be end-of-lifing a product or sunsetting it. Some people call it that. That is about understanding the risk of actually switching off that product or taking it off the shelf, understanding the revenue impact. So a lot of analysis on the revenue that has been coming in historically from that particular product or service, understanding how you can give your customers an alternative. You wouldn't want them to go to a competitor. So what is your strategy there? Do you have a replacement product? Are you going to partner with somebody in the market who has their product, but you will maybe white label it? It's always important to understand where your customers are at in that cycle, and then being able to sort of understand what the impact would be of end-of-lifing that product in their organization, in their business, and you don't just switch off a product. Then, as I said, we also part of a team that sort of is accountable for change management. So it's about engaging internally with different functions about what that end of life means. Our finance colleagues, are we going to have another way to create revenue to cover for the end of life of this product? Our pricing colleagues, is the new product or the replacement product or the replacement strategy, does it make sense for our customers? Customer support is, what is the sort of end of life process? Is there a procedure we need to walk the customer through? Is there something we need to communicate in our channels? How do we support them through this end of life? And then I think communication and I would call them marketing, but in different organizations, the communication department, strategic communication, where you are anticipating sort of questions from your customers, and also working so closely with legal. The end user agreements that are in place, there are contracts in place. How do you actually engage with your legal department to make sure that the organization is not in breach of the contracts they currently have with their customers? So that is the sort of functions that you would interact with before you end of life a product. And then obviously our marketing colleagues would take that communication and make sure we deliver that messaging in a way that resonates with the customer and doesn't create panic in the market. So that's really the difference between a tier 1 go-to-market launch and a tier 3 market launch. Now, talk about a tier 2. I quite like tier 2, to be honest, because it's a mixture of tier 1 and tier 3. So it is taking a current product in market and either evolving it or launching a new version of it or a better version of it. And I think that is exciting because you have learnings from previous sales, previous engagements, and how do you take those insights from your customers that are already your customers and better the offering? Usually when you have a product in market, you're consistently gathering feedback from your customers to say, is the product still working for you? And I think the most special part of the PMM in this role is being able to package those insights from current customers and successfully brief them into our product teams so that they can build something that's even better than what we have in market. So that's the exciting part of it, is that you're actually taking raw data, raw feedback from customers and bettering your product. What this does, obviously, is extend your brand. It also builds a lot of loyalty, because when you send those customer feedback surveys, we're actually doing something with that feedback. And then it makes sure that you stay abreast of your competitors because you're in touch with what your customers want and what they need, and you're building your product roadmap according to what the customer needs. So that would be how you embark on a tier 2 launch. And then a go-to-market for tier 2 is really about looking after your customers and thanking them for their loyalty of using the current product, and inviting them in maybe an exciting way, or a launch, a pre-launch before it goes to the market, to say, we've been listening to what you've said. We've listened to your feedback around improvements. We have something and we want to share it with you. So the nice thing is that customers really appreciate it when they give us feedback and we implement it. But I think as product marketers, what we forget to do is go back to the customer to remind them that you've given us this feedback. Thank you so much for being a part of this innovation. And this is what your feedback has resulted in. So I always like tier 2 launches, but in the role of a product manager, you obviously are involved in tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3. And it's not really a 1, 2, 3 or sequential sort of launch. It happens at different times. But yeah, that's how I would classify those tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 launches.
That it's nice. But I love that you mentioned that tier 2 is your favorite one, like tier 2 launches. I prefer tier 1 launches. I mean, when you do a bit of beta testing before the product is introduced to the market. And I also love the way you talked about doing like an exit launch and tying it to a tier 3 kind of thing. Because the way I look at tier 1 launches, these are launches that are introducing new products into the market, but also seeking to get new customers, right? And then I look at tier 2 launches as a launch whereby the company is launching yes, a product that matches the market, but they're looking to maintain the existing customers, which is something you've also mentioned. And then the third tier, which would be a company is launching, a solution that with the same features, so it sort of matches the market standards and what's there in the market. And the goal is also to maintain the current customers. And I think it also ties with what you mentioned in terms of that could be something you can do when you're exiting, out of a market when you've been in the market for a long time. So I think the other thing I want us to discuss is your challenges. I mean, PMM is a new role. We've talked about that. What are the challenges you faced, all through the years, all through your profile, from being a graduate intern at Microsoft all the way to now at Sage?
So I think it's the challenge is you don't actually understand the importance of being a PMM, right? You just feel that you're part of this big organization and this moving machine. Challenges are really about getting people together and taking people on that journey around why we're embarking on a journey. That's really hard. You get people who are skeptical around your approaches. And even though it's based on actual data or actual customer insights, you almost have to play a role like Olivia Pope. You have to be a spin doctor and bring people on that journey, show them the value, show them the opportunity size, show them how you can actually make money from going after a specific customer and satisfying a specific need in the market. So that is always a challenge because there are different types of people in organizations. Our finance colleagues want to crunch the numbers and want to drill down into how much money will make us. Then we are talking about customer needs and being there for the customer and building something that will serve the customer. So our product colleagues also need to understand that. So I would say the biggest challenge is the collaboration, the cross-collaboration across different functions, whether it be finance, product development, customer support, performance marketing, customer experience. It's really about interacting with those functions and making sure they're all on the same page to understand why you're embarking on that journey. And then I think over and above that, I think the greatest challenge that product marketers have is time. We are inundated with lots and lots and lots of projects, and really difficult to prioritize what matters the most. I've just gone through something recently in my role where I had to step back and actually look at what is important, go back to the financial and commercial objectives for the financial year and ask myself, am I putting my efforts into initiatives and activities that are driving the commercial objective for the financial year? So it's really difficult. We do get a lot of projects on our desks, but always, always, always have a sit down. I have really good conversations with our head of sales, our managing director to say, financial year X, what do we need to do and where can I be of assistance? And then I would say prioritize all the different projects on your desk according to what would help reach those commercial objectives.
Yeah, so like business objectives, commercial business objectives at the moment. And I feel just to add to that, it's sometimes the payment guys are looked into the conversation of when it's a bit late. I mean, you getting an email telling you to launch this product within 3 weeks. People don't understand how much time it takes to plan for a launch, and a launch that needs to be successful has to take, some amount of time for it to succeed. And you have to be looked in from the start. During the ideation stages, the ideation phase of that product, you need to look in the product marketing function so that they can be able to understand the key things that will lead to a successful launch and positioning and growth of that particular product. So I wanted to mention that. So the other thing I want us to discuss is you being a PMM in the African continent, and I know you've served multiple markets. What are some of the things you would really want people to know and understand, but also just highlighting what's been your main frustration in terms of positioning products into market in the African continent? We could talk about people maybe not having smartphones, maybe companies having leaders who don't understand anything to do with technology. So you have to do a lot of product education and all that. So maybe you could, break that down for us and maybe give an example, because I know you've worked in a couple of companies where you had to, engage with guys who are like new into the tech space and all that.
Yeah, so I think first and foremost, the thing that frustrates me the most is the lack of consumer research on our continent. So Africa is a very unique and diverse continent, and trying to find a market or trying to serve a specific customer requires deep, deep insights. And I just don't think there's enough research out there. So to anybody who's in a big research firm, please, we are looking for consumer research that is Africa specific. We know that there's stuff available around Europe and other continents, but Africa specific research would be really great. So that's the one frustration. But over and above that, I think it's the lack of understanding about how different different parts of the continent are. So East Africa is not necessarily the same as Southern Africa. And we're talking about any of those economic factors, whether it's the actual economies, the actual sort of GDP growth, all of those things that are like textbook facts, which matter into sort of driving how you put a product in market. I think that's been a challenge, and I see it all over. When I launch a product in South Africa, it doesn't necessarily work the same or doesn't get received the same in Zambia or in Zimbabwe or in Namibia. So I think it's also about being able to localize your offering and really get to know your customer. I say that, and I've been saying it the whole conversation. That's because you've got some customer insights doesn't mean you can cut and paste and launch in another region. Make sure you understand your regions really well, understand the economic factors. You mentioned something about propensity to use technology. What if they don't have good internet? What if they don't have smartphones? Are you taking that into consideration when you're building the product? And agree with you 100%. Sometimes we are not in the loop when people are ideating, and these are the insights that can change the way a product or service is consumed by a customer. So always important to localize and understand the customer on a regional level, not just cut and paste and spray and pray, as we say. Really just get into the nitty gritties of what makes the customer tick, what those sort of economic factors are in that region, and how do people consume services or products in that region.
I love that. I love it. I feel the key thing I'll take out of that is localization. Let's not do the copy and pasting. I mean, we're tired of that. I think it's seen a lot of that. You can test. There's a lot of that, and they normally backfire, right? And even the geopolitical conditions for countries in Africa are quite different. And I know some people normally think, Kenya is, there's a way they normally look at it. If they look at Africa as a country and Kenya as a continent, I mean, it's kind of twisted if you think about it. So the other thing I'm going to ask you, with your wealth of knowledge and experience, what are some of the key tools you use to ensure that you deliver optimally? I mean, as you've done amazing stuff up until now. So what are those tools you'd like to share with other PMMs to also, go do their research and see if these are tools that would also use in their teams and departments? So what are those tools and resources you use just to make sure you stay at the top of it?
Yeah, so I would say if you have sort of come from a marketing discipline, we were taught many, many, many years ago around a SWOT analysis. I know it's a very simple exercise to do, but it really, really, really uncovers what the opportunity is and sort of frames your mind around who to sort of target when you're going after a launch or thinking of launching a product. So a SWOT analysis never goes away. I think it gets more sophisticated as you become a seasoned product marketer, but understanding the strengths, the weaknesses of your organization, the threats that are brought by your competitors in that market, and then overlaying that with customer insights, saying, I know the customer in this region requires this kind of service. I think that creates a really good base to create your value proposition. The next thing is a value proposition canvas or tool where you can break down what value you're going to deliver to the business through delivering value to the customer. So some colleagues just see a value prop as a one slider. It really is a big thing. You need to go into the meat and the potatoes of it, as I would say, and really outline this is what it will bring for the organization, and this is the value it's going to bring for the customer. And then tie that messaging up in a value proposition. And that should really be the blueprint for building the product, for marketing the product, for supporting the product, for measuring the efficacy of the product. It's a sort of value proposition canvas. They're different ones, and I think maybe we need to do a session where we share different tools that are available on the internet or that we all use. But in different organizations, it's called different things, but definitely a way of building a solid value proposition. So a tool to do that. And then lastly is staying in touch with the customer. Making sure that as a product marketer, you're actually spending time with customers. It can differ. Some people can physically spend time with customers depending on the industry they're in. For some of us, it would be over the phone, speaking to them, being a part of customer support, listening to the kind of queries that come into the call center, using that to better the product, always being that sort of pulse and listening to the customer and being there to derive those insights so that you can push them back into the organization, whether to change the product, whether to launch a new product. So always staying close to the customer. And like I said, that happens in organizations in various ways. You can spend time in customer support. You can spend time with sales. You can actually spend time with customer experience when they're collecting feedback. But really, it's being close to the customer and being able to sort of take those insights and always know that you are on top of your game because you're spending time with customers and hearing what they have to say.
I love that. I love the insights you've shared in terms of approaches and also tools that you've mentioned. So the other thing before we end is just we have a lot of PMMs at the moment who sort of define themselves as being the founding PMMs. So a company has never had a PMM. You're going to come in as a fast one. So you have a lot of things to do. You have a lot of teaching that you need to do just to bring people and departments up to speed. So what advice would you give our founding PMMs who would be either, entering a startup or an experienced, a well-established company?
So I think there are characteristics of a PMM that help you be a good PMM. And I'd like to start with that. So the characteristics or sort of traits you need to work on as a PMM, I would highlight those as staying curious. As PMM, sometimes because of business objectives or commercial objectives, we get sort of roped into just doing something to make money. Stay curious. Don't always just fall back in line because that's what everyone wants you to do. The second characteristic is be open and agile. Not everything is going to go according to your plan, your go-to-market plan, your ideation session. Product developments are going to get the testing right or the build right. So be open and agile and very nimble to change because a very fast-paced environment, whether you're in startup, whether you're in an established organization, things literally change overnight. So don't be very hard and set in your ways. Be nimble, open, and agile. Then the third characteristic is just this tenacity and relentless pursuit of getting things done. That is at the core of being a PMM. You need to draw people together. You need to put insights together to sort of take people on a journey to deliver a great experience for customers. You have to be resilient and relentless about that. You've got to want it so bad. You've got to have that buy-in from ideation all the way through to launch. you're almost an ambassador for that product. So those are the characteristics I think a PMM should have. And then when we talk about things that you'd need to do or that would help you sort of be a PMM, I think the first thing is making sure you understand who your stakeholders are within the organization, what they do, and what they are accountable for. So in PMM, we tend to be given everything, and you need to know who you can chat to, who's the specialist in that area, and get their buy-in and their accountability so that we can pull those resources together to drive that motion of delivering that product or service. So the first thing is knowing who your stakeholders are and what their business function is. The second thing would be understanding resource capacity. In most teams, whether it's product development, whether it's finance, whether it's performance marketing, understand your resources that you have available. This is obviously to maximize the resources so that you're not stuck doing everything and you know who to hand over to. But really, it's also about understanding how fast you can go, because you would have had an understanding of the resources available to you as the PMM, and also allows you to push back to maybe management when they say we're launching tomorrow. You can then speak from a place of fact that we don't have the right resources or enough resources in place. So always understand resource capacity in every area that impacts the product launch or the service launch. And then lastly, I think it's about being visible in your organization and making sure those conversations are flowing, whether it's creating a forum or sending out a mailer once a month, just letting colleagues know what you're up to, what you're seeing in the market, and sharing those insights so that when they get that brief on their desk or you're now ideating in a workshop, it's not so much of a surprise, because you've been sharing these insights. So that sort of capacity to share the insights that we derive from the market and what we're seeing with customers, I think that's always a good thing. And you can use your creativity there. In some organizations, it's a newsletter. In some organizations, you can do a monthly Teams call. Just always keep people in the loop around what's happening in your region, what you see in the market, and what customers are saying, so that people know that the next step in building a product or the next product that they need to build or the next service they need to provide is driven by those customer insights, and they've been listening to the PMM, and the PMM has been the custodian of delivering those customer insights through the organization. So those are like the key that I would say.
I love that. That's fantastic. That's fantastic, Sibongani. I love the breakdown you've given that. And just to add, it's yet for when it's like the sales department, the other thing I've seen some PMMs do is you update the resources. Let's say, for example, the battle card. You update it, but you don't circulate it. So early on when I was coming into the PMM role, there's a senior PMM who gave me advice in terms of how to handle it. And it's when you've updated the sales battle card, have a call with them, the sales team, and take them through what's been updated and how they can use it properly, right? And just to add to the list of qualifications or characteristics over best practicing PMM, it would be, I think, actually a list would be being an excellent communicator so that you can sell people or with the vision you have. And then the other one is being a team player. You might be able to understand the different stakeholders, but if you're not a team player, they won't be able to support you. So I think that's the last thing I could add to the list that you've shared from experience. So as you conclude, Sibongani, I don't know if there's anything you'd want to communicate heart to other PMMs. This is a role that's growing in Africa, and this podcast is for us to just, us who are like in more senior experience, to communicate to those new PMMs who are coming into this role. So what advice would you give them? Any parting shots or anything you want to say to the audience?
So I try to stay away from the boring stuff, which is battle cards and all of that. I do think though, that's another topic, is for us to go through what tools PMMs use. But over and above that, I think it's just it's a great role, and no 2 days are the same. And so if you like a fast-paced sort of job, you like change, you embrace change, you don't want to do the same thing every day, I think PMM is really a great place to do that. You get exposed to various parts of the business. And like I said, the role has really evolved. We are now being seen as a strategic function to drive revenue. So I think for me, it's another challenge. In 2025, I'll be spending more time focusing on optimization. And that's through the business, not just in product marketing with my product set, but also how, as you said, being a team player, how do you disseminate information? How do people absorb that information? How is that information being used to attract a new kind of customer? So I would say it's also about understanding the numbers a little bit more. I know PMMs shy away from that, but spend time with your financial heads or your heads of sales. Understand what the levers are, what makes the business tick. That's what makes it easier for you to deliver a value prop that makes sense and resonates in the market. And then lastly, I just think it's like stay passionate. Stay resilient. We do a lot of work, and the pressure is intense, but also have fun doing it, and always remember to put the customer at the heart of everything that you do.
Yeah, we share the same sentiments. Putting the customer at the center of everything you do, you'll be successful. So thank you. How can guys reach you? Or you can maybe share your Twitter handle, LinkedIn name, and then they'll be able to reach you.
Please do share. I've got a LinkedIn profile. I have a Twitter handle. I'm sure you will share those details with everybody who's watching. I am open to being in a conversation with people. If you have any questions, really feel free to just contact me. I think we need this community. And like you said, because this is a new thing in our continent, we really need to support one another and make sure that we empower each other to do the best of our ability in our roles.
Thank you, Sibongani. Thanks for joining us. Thank you for the wise words you've shared with the audience. I do have a lovely evening. I know it's evening in your country, so have a lovely evening. And thank you so much for the insights.
Thank you so much for having me. Take care. Bye.
Okay, bye.